Hey guys, welcome back to Defeating Hair Loss. My name is Steve, and I'm lucky again. I got Bobby tonight with me. Bobby D, how we doing?
Doing great, Steve.
Bringing back that wonderful hair.
Trying to.
Tonight's video, we are going to talk about a kind of a concept that I always have about, hey, I can tell you what you want to hear about something, right? Mm-hmm. Or I can tell you what you need to know.
Yeah.
What do you think is the better one?
Tell you what you need to know, Steve.
I need to know,
yeah.
Okay. But you're on the younger side of the generational thing going on here. You got your ear to the ground. You got a lot of social media going on. So Bobby always brings some really good information, especially from our texts and our phone calls and all of our comments and things like that. So we thought we would kind of do a role play. So Bobby's not actually being himself tonight, although he's going to keep the hair.
Keep the hair, yeah.
He is going to be someone that is you out there that is maybe not that experienced or knowledgeable. And you're just kind of putting your big toe in the water of hair transplants. You're kind of suffering and hurting and want to really make a move, but you're seeing a lot of information out there. And based on today's modern information, what's popping up is what Bobby is he wants to hear. So Bobby, you're our audience out there, you're our viewers. What's number one for what you want to hear?
I would love to hear that it was easy. The hair surgeries are a piece of cake, Steve.
So you want to hear that hair surgery is easy, yeah. Right? Anybody could do it.
Yeah, anybody.
Okay. Well, that's what we all want to hear. And why is that? We want to hear that because we don't really want to put ourselves in a situation where maybe somebody could make a mistake or not do it right. So if we kind of go through, I say the internet, I just mean, social media, marketing and advertising, anything out there, the more that they generate this content that it's not that hard to do, and there's more players that can do it, the more everybody makes more money. And, lo and behold, not for nothing, but more people, if the prices drop, get to do hair transplants. Yeah. So it's kind of like, I'm talking on both sides of my mouth. I want everybody, because I'm trying to save the world of hair loss, to be able to get a hair transplant. But, it's just not easy. So the fact is, and here, Bobby, is what you need to know. Mm-hmm. It is not easy. It is absolutely not easy. I have watched these doctors doing surgeries that need to be able to, do different types of procedures, different types of hair, caliper of hair, color of hair, types of skin, different races, different genders. There's older people, there's younger people. There's some that are using the medication, some that are not using the medication. So all these different kind of like drop down from a, cheat sheet, I call it, a drop down list. You have to put that and plug that in on the spot, like as you're preparing for surgery. And then you got to know kind of how that fills in to do a hairline, to do the mid-scalp. There's different sections of the scalp, how to dense pack a certain amount of follicular units per centimeter squared in the frontal zone. I'm just making it easy in the center core, which is called a bridge, and in the crown. That right there sounds complicated. There's like 15 different places in the scalp that you need to know kind of the angle and direction, temporal peaks, all this different stuff. And that's why it's not easy. Mm-hmm. So I think, and I'm not trying to put words back in your mouth, Mr. Guinea Pig here, that's the viewers out there, but I think it's not just about shaving the head, pulling a bunch of hair out of here, poking a bunch of holes, and putting the hair in. Is that what you kind of want to hear?
Yeah.
Well, that's not what's out there. What you need to know is it's much more difficult. What's number two?
Number two, Steve, is, FUE is the latest, greatest, best thing ever for hair transplants.
Yeah, well, they do a good job. And think about it. FUE is a fantastic procedure. My last procedure was FUE for reasons other than, why it's the greatest and latest and all that. The reality is, and what you need to know, Mr. Viewer, Mrs. Viewer, Mr. Guinea Pig, what you need to know, I know you want to hear that FUE is the way to go, but what you need to know is not everybody's a candidate for FUE. That's number one. Yeah. And number two is we've been doing FUE since like 1966. It was called the plugs. It was just a larger punch. It's exactly the same thing. How do you think they got plugs out of the back of the head? They drilled into the back and they kind of pulled out the graft. Now, yes, FUE has come a long way. About 15 years ago, some of my hero doctors had brought back the plug procedure with a smaller punch, hence today's FUE procedure, only to do small cases, maybe some hairline touch-ups, and maybe to fill in some scars. That was it. There was no large amounts of size cases that we were doing about 15, say maybe 20 years ago. I'm not sure exactly when. But it goes all the way back. The strip procedure, the FUT, was actually the more modern procedure because it took out a piece of tissue and closed the wound so you had no pop marks in the back of your head. Nowadays, we call them tiny little scars from FUE, but in the old days, the end of a pencil, the eraser, was big holes in the back of your head. So contrary to what you're reading out there, or contrary to what you're watching out there, it is not a fact. It is actually that the FUT procedure is the more modern day, but that's here nor there. What you want to hear is FUE is the way to go. FUE is easier. FUE is the latest, better technology. They're using robots, all that kind of stuff. That's what you want to hear. What you need to know is FUE is a great procedure if you qualify, and if it's a better procedure based on various things that we've talked about on this channel many times. So that's what you need to know.
Yeah.
What's number 3?
Number 3 is you do not need to take finasteride.
This should have been number 1, right? Yeah, you want to hear. So what you do is, I do the same thing, and I try not to, but you search and you search and you search until you finally find something of what you want to hear. So if you don't want to take a medication, right, for anything, it could be any health issue or anything like hair loss, then you're going to find somewhere, some forum, someplace out there that either kind of takes things out of context, but they're going to tell you, don't worry about it. You don't need to take finasteride. Listen, finasteride is a cure for hair loss. Okay, a hair transplant is not a cure for hair loss. Yep. So in this number 3, what you really want to hear is you can fix your hair loss with a hair transplant. Well, that's true, but that's only temporary. What happens, these are my fingers that represent the hair that's sitting on your head now. That's called existing native hair. And then when we put transplants in there, you're happy, but what happens when the existing native hair falls out?
Yeah.
You don't want to hear that, do you?
Nope. That's why I'm on finasteride, Steve.
It's your insurance policy.
Yep.
So this is probably the biggest one out there. Of course, this entire channel is built around the finasteride because it's so important to keep the hair in your head that you have today, because you'll never have more hair on your head for the rest of your life than you have on your head today. So what you need to know is you need to really, really think hard about using finasteride just to save your hair. Forget about kind of like pairing it with a hair transplant. What's number 4?
That hair transplant clinics in the U.S., they charge too much, Steve.
Yeah. So what you got to be I can go on and on this one forever and ever and ever. We're talking about these overseas, out of the country clinics that pop up. They only do FUE. Well, guess why they only do FUE? No, we went back to number 2. It's not the most modern day procedure. They were never trained to do hair transplants. Most of them are not hair transplant doctors. They've never gone through a fellowship. They're not board certified. Now, before you start jumping up and down and throwing things at the computer, okay, or your phone, okay, yes, there are board certified doctors throughout the world, and they are really good doctors throughout the world. But it is not easy to throw a dart into some country in South America, Central America, Europe, or even over in the Far East and pay nothing pretty much for a hair transplant and get the same quality. It just doesn't work that way. And think about it this way. The business models, and we've talked about this in other videos as well, the business models are different. They're going to kind of cheat the system, okay? Would you want to be the one patient or possibly even the second patient of a day that's charging you a fair price in the country that's board certified and has gone through a fellowship and has the videos and photos and reputation to prove that to you? Or would you want to be one of maybe 15 or 16 or 17 patients paying a couple $1,000s? We'll do the math. The overseas doctors are actually making more money. Now, you're going to see out there advertising that says, no, that's not true, because they're trying to rope you in. So that's what you want to hear, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to a foreign country. I'm paying $3,000 for a hair transplant. I'm getting double the grafts, and I'm the only patient of the day. That's what you want to hear. Well, you need to know, you better not get on that airplane so fast, because I've heard, and I've got my ear to the ground too. In this industry, I talk to everybody, and it's just not that easy. So this is nothing against foreign, out of the country clinics that are doing hair transplants. What you need to know is that the cost in this country to have an excellent staff and a doctor with an actual medical license and a board certification, just waking up that day is going to be more expensive than finding the cheapest place overseas. And that's very scary. And you know what I'm going to say next, right? They're going to tell you you don't have to use finasteride because they don't want to talk about it. And they're going to chew up your donor hair for the most part, which means you can't come back and get it fixed if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So that's what you need to know.
Yeah.
What's number 5?
I guess last but not least is, FUT is old and outdated, Steve.
Yeah. So here's an example of 2 FUTs, and we can't find his scar. He cuts his hair really low. Yeah. He looks phenomenal. And then, I probably should do a diagram. Everything above his actual scar is completely intact, of full density. Everything below his actual scar is full density. It's as if, other than that tiny thin line, he has never had anything done. That's the advantage of FUT, and we can go on and on and on and on about it, but Bobby chose that because he wasn't sure about finasteride at the time and didn't know if he was going to need multiple procedures. So again, FUT is an option. FUE is an option. But this channel is supposed to help you make those decisions and ask those questions. So what you want to hear is FUT's old, it's antiquated, it's no good, nobody's doing it. What you need to know is those clinics that are only doing FUE, not all of them, but most of them, have no idea how to do FUT. Never done it, never will. Yep. How's that for what you need to know?
Sounds good, Steve. Appreciate
what you want to hear. I think I got something caught in my throat. So we're going to cut this video now. I hope this helps you. Don't forget to like and subscribe.